Howdy folks. Well, there's an old saying, if you keep your head in the sand, you get your butt kicked, and that is the risk for all of New Zealand with Labour's recalcitrant position on superannuation. As people live longer and have fewer children, the numbers just don't add up. There have been 4 taxpayers per superannuitant. Soon there will be only 2 taxpayers per superannuitant. And the sensible thing to do is to gradually raise the age of entitlement to superannuation, like practically every other country is doing, with a compassionate early access for those who've worked in physical jobs for more than 20 years, and keep access to KiwiSaver at 65. If you do that, if you're honest, then we can be okay. Otherwise, the increase will be forced on us by some financial crisis with a virus or an earthquake, perhaps a financial crisis, all of which we've had in the last 20 years, except next time, because we borrowed so much in those crises, the only way to pay will be a shock jolt to superannuation age rather than the more sensible, gradual approach we should be starting now.
What about age testing?
Is making KiwiSaver compulsory? I know it's not something you support, but would it be useful for that argument down the track? If KiwiSaver was compulsory, it would be easier to change the super age?
If it increases the overall saving, but the difficulty is, and I think the thing that, while it's a very popular policy at first blush, you've got to ask yourself, where's the money come from? Should a couple have to take longer to pay off their mortgage and pay more interest because 12% of their money gets put into KiwiSaver? It's a massive win for the financial services sector. They get the fees on your KiwiSaver and more interest on your mortgage if you pay it off slower. Should a couple that are starting a business, like I met on the weekend, electrical contractors, should they have to take 12% out of their business, put it into KiwiSaver, or should they be able to reinvest? So if people end up the same or worse off, then it doesn't actually help with superannuation, and that's the thing that I think is really important to get right. If we're going to do this, let's understand where that money's coming from and what the other opportunities are lost along the way.
So on my question, you do think it would be easier to change superannuation settings if there's more people in KiwiSaver?
It'd be easier if people save more, but if you have more KiwiSaver and less saving elsewhere, like people spend more interest paying off their mortgage, for example, because it takes longer, because 12% of your money was put into KiwiSaver when you wouldn't have otherwise chosen to, then I think that hasn't actually given you more savings. It's given you more savings in one account, but it hasn't better prepared you to retire overall.
So just so we're clear on your position, you're open to it, but you want some carve-outs there.
I think you should at least be able to take a holiday while you pay off your mortgage. Keeping debt so you can save, paying interest to the bank on the one hand, then paying KiwiSaver management fees on the other. Well, this is a great policy for the financial services sector. It's a huge gift to the banks. I'm not sure that it will leave people better off overall.
Would it be something that you would stand? Would it be something that would be a bottom line for you in coalition negotiations?
Well, let's see how much flexibility there is in the settings. The other thing we've got to think about is, will you pay less tax? Because people are being asked to take a big chunk to look after their own retirement. Will we be able to get some tax relief so the total chunk being taken out of people's salaries doesn't go up so much? And that's another big challenge, I think. People love the idea, let's all get in together and save compulsorily. Then you ask where the money comes from, and that's where the debate actually needs to be.
Are you worried about the overall effect on growth in the economy of taking that much discretionary income, or maybe not discretionary income, out of the system?
Well, if the money gets reinvested, it can be good for the economy. The question is, what would people have done otherwise? If they would have paid off their mortgage, if they would have invested elsewhere, perhaps in sharesies, if they would have started a small business or grown their business by employing more people, well, all that leads to growth as well.
Is it bottom line for you? Should an entrepreneur be able to decide that they would rather put the extra money into their own business rather than the KiwiSaver? Is that a bottom line for you?
Well, there's 4 months to go, so give us a chance to firm up our policy. This is obviously a surprise to everyone, but I actually think that this deserves a bit more debate than it's had before we all rush off and put 12% of national income into the hands of fund managers who've been lobbying for this for a while, by the way.
Is it your concern that people will therefore be better off in retirement than they are when they're currently working?
Well, not if they save in one way but save less in others. Not if they pay more interest on their mortgage over their lifetime because they had 12% taken out when they really needed to hammer that mortgage. Not if they wanted to grow their business but they couldn't because they had 12% taken out and put in the hands of the fund managers who've been lobbying for this for decades, by the way, and here to have just rolled the National Party.
You mentioned Labour when you came out and said they wouldn't move on superannuation, but are you going to be able to convince New Zealand First of that?
Well, at the end of the day, it won't be me that convinces anyone. It'll be the numbers. If you look at this government, ACT said we've got to have less bureaucrats, we've got to have less departments. They ignored us for 2 years. Now it's happening because the numbers have come to our aid and shown that we're right all along, and the numbers will prove ACT right on superannuation. How do I know that? Because they're staring us at the face. When superannuation was put in place, people lived to 72. Now it's 83. When super was put in place, the average couple was having about 3 children. Now they're having 1.5. There's not enough taxpayers. There's too many people on retirement for the numbers to add up. The best way to do that is to take advantage of longer life expectancy, raise the age, have compassionate early access for those who actually have worked hard for 20 years in physical labour. Then you're going somewhere fair.
That hasn't convinced Winston Peters so far, though, so how's that going to change?
Well, you know what? Some people say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I think there's an exception to every rule. Sorry, can I?
Were funds under KiwiSaver expected to increase over time? If this policy were to go ahead, I mean, there's been some calls in the finance industry to change the rules to make it easier for providers to be able to invest in private assets. One of the things that's been singled out is infrastructure projects and the like. Is that something that you would support?
Well, again, what you end up with is the same investment patterns you had previously, just filtered through the fund managers that have lobbied for the policy for 20 years, because you can invest in all the same stuff. It's the same people's money, they just have to put it through a different track. And that's what I'm trying to say to people. We need a more open debate on this.
Is there political risk with KiwiSaver? People put a lot of money in there, 20 years' time, the politician decides actually it has to invest more in New Zealand than it does right now. Do you see any risk there? Or is it
you put your life savings in a political scheme, then you're going to have to reap the benefits or the costs of that eventually. The question I would ask is, why do so many people in this building have separate parliamentary super schemes and they're not on KiwiSaver?
Can I just quickly, your view on the Nelson Temps Trust resolution?
Look, I think it's a very positive thing. One of the things I'm proud of in this country is we accept that wrongs were done in the past, we go back, we put them right. This is a very unusual case because it actually goes back to events before the Treaty of Waitangi, but we're still prepared to put it right.
Minister, would your deputy be a woman?
Beg your pardon?
Would your deputy be a woman?
Well, I think that's very backward thinking of you. I think it's up to them to identify, not me.
Would it be a current MP?
It will be a current MP, right? We're going to sorry, yeah.
Going to win exit?
I never take anything for granted, but last time we polled, I did have a very healthy lead. Thank you.